Morning, Wilmington. Our first guest is Kevin Kelly, and he is not your ordinary certified life coach.
Hello, my name is Kevin L. Kelly. I'm the founder of Life by Design coaching firm. Also, a facet of Life by Design coaching firm is The Father's Coach. This podcast here, this is the first of many podcasts here. This is the first episode, and we're going to talk about fathers. The whole thing is about fathers, but we're going to talk about discovering the lost art of fathering. And there's a couple of things I want to share before we really get into the introductions here. Just a simple fact, I think we all know this, but adolescents in a single mother and single father families are at higher risk of risky behaviors, victimization, and mental distress compared to those in two-parent families. Mm-hmm. So we see the difference. We see the difference. Now, I'm the father of 3 books. I'm the author of 3 books: Sonship, Fathering, and the Journey of Fathering, Time Dominion, The Father's Leadership Breakthrough Manual. Sonship, Fathering, and the Journey of Becoming, Time Dominion, and the Father's Leadership Breakthrough Manual. Now, my first book, Time Dominion, is like a time management book, how you manage your time. And there's been many years ago that I would do workshops and seminars for the government up in Jersey, up in West Virginia. I did some workshops and seminars on Time Dominion, and I always try to fit everything into a day, everything into a week. But as I've gotten older and learned more, I realized that, Time Dominion is actually how you take dominion over your life, how you prioritize things and kind of take away the things that, trim the fat, cut the fat off the steak, cut the fat off, pig feet, whatever you eat, type of thing, but kind of do what's actually your purpose. And then the other 2 were kind of fatherhood centric books. So I think my calling has been, and as we get older, we kind of narrow the objectives. And my objective has been, I believe, given by God, is to reform the image of fathering, reform the image of fatherhood. And in order to do that, you have to reform the image of man. So I believe that I believe that all of us we were designed by God. We were designed in the image and likeness of God, the image of God, and also his likeness, which is his character. So I believe that I had to start there. So, but by me actually looking at the statistics, being part of many fatherhood initiatives, Delaware Fatherhood Family Coalition, which is now actually dismantled, but I still carry that torch with being the Father's Coach. So today in this episode right here, I have Mr. Weldon Spellman. Now, this man right here, he's a good man. He's a good man. He's actually one of my mentors, and I want to share a couple of things about him, and also have Mr. Orlando Hillman. But I want to share a little bit the background of Mr. Weldon right now. He's been married for 35 years. He's a father of twin boys. He's number 8th child of 12 children. 1 father, 1 mother, and they were married 75 years. Look at that legacy. He was a social worker, counselor by trade, a mental health specialist, peer-to-peer counseling, people empowering people, which is a liaison of Newcastle County Police Department. He was a former president of Father Mentoring Fathers, which is a nonprofit organization, and that's how I met him, actually. He's also a chaplain of Christian Hospital. Mr. Orlando Hillman is a master barber. He's an artist. I mean, he's up and down, I want to say throughout the country, because it's not just the East Coast. I think in the Midwest, he's done some work, and he's done some major work with some of the major colleges, universities throughout the land. He's a father of 6, 3 girls and 3 boys. Almost sounds like the Brady Bunch. Sounds like the Brady Bunch. But both of these men, they can actually share a little bit about themselves before we get into the content here today. So we're going to start off with Mr. Weldon Spellman.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll start off with you.
It's great to be here.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And Orlando, it's been good meeting you for the short time. I'm from a Spellman family that's has roots in North Carolina, but I was born and raised in 11 of the 12 of us were born here in Delaware. I graduated from Delaware State University and just attended my 50th high school reunion last Saturday.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really, really awesome. And it was good to see high school mates. But been primarily in Newcastle County doing work with mentoring with children and helping in a more of a social work capacity for adults that needed support in trying to change their thinking, change some of the events in their life and how they process going forward. And so leaving in the background, but integrating it in whatever I do, and that is my ministry to Christ. So, you know, that's always there. That's always the wisdom I draw from, and that's how I operate going forward.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for driving all the way down here.
That's no problem.
to be here on site. Mr. Orlando Hillman, give us something about you. Give us something. Give us some love.
Like Mr. Kelly said, you know, father 6, like the Brady Bunch, 3 girls and 3 boys. I'm originally from Aliquippa, PA, which is a town right outside of Pittsburgh, about 20 to 30 minutes, give or take. Steel mill town. My dad, I'm a 2nd generation artist. My dad was an artist. Basically, you know, through just the gift that was given to us, we shared something in common that was similar. And we grew together. You know, I looked up at him as far as this with my art and developing my art and watching him. And, you know, I'm from a part of Pennsylvania where football is real big. So I was pretty talented in football too. So growing up, I had more focused on my football than the ability of art I had. I just took it as for granted. Basically, I could draw really well, like my dad. But I did eventually go to college for a little bit and majored in the background of art.
Wow.
I played football, college football for a year at Central State University, where I majored in commercial art, advertisement, illustration. Being that I was a young football player, just out there, not really focused, I end up not graduating, dropping out, and end up going into basically the world of industry of work. I eventually, you know, picked up a trade of forklift operating, and I had been operating with that for the past 18 years before I went into the area of looking at trying to become an independent artist.
Wow.
And that's where I'm at now. I'm basically in the transition of becoming a full-time artist / master barber. It's been a trial through fatherhood, and you know, I've been here in Delaware probably about 5 years of that with my trade in master barber. So
okay, I like
you
that.
know,
I like that. That's good. I like that creative piece that you were saying. And one thing that triggered when you were talking about your father, you're the 2nd generation,
yes,
2nd generation artist. That's something. When I think about when I think of fathers, when I coined the discovering the lost art of fathering, I think of my father. Yeah, my father's father. My father wasn't raised with his father. He wasn't raised with his father. He was raised with his grandfather.
Okay.
After my grandmother had him, then of course she was young. She was really young when she had him, and then he stayed with his grandfather, you know, throughout. And she went off and got married. she got married or whatever. She still visited him, whatever. But I think that was one of the conversations that my great grandparents had with her. Well, we'll keep him here. You're a little young, and then so he was raised with his uncles, pretty much around the same age. It was like a couple of age. He was a couple of years younger, and one of his uncles, one of my father's uncles, was like a couple of months younger than him, type of thing. So they all kind of grew up together. But when I talk about discovering the lost art of fathering, I'm thinking about the principles, the core values that they have, and that I don't see today. So I captured that. That's why I wrote the book, Sonship, Fathering, and a Journey of Becoming. So this right here is an honor to them. I wanted to honor my mother, my father, and 115 or 116 years, we was able to track us being in this country. So even though the hard work they did, like they were sharecroppers. So after he was sharecropping, he was still going to school. He was only able to go to school for on inclement days, but he graduated on time because he had some cousins. He had some cousins that was in class, my girl cousins, and they would bring him home to work. This is what the teacher said. Can you finish this? Can you do this? Wow. Now, if you wasn't in class, you couldn't get the instruction, but he was able to do most of the work, hand it back to his cousin, our cousin, and then he graduated on time. Perseverance, but he had to be almost a genius. He had to be a genius, because how about there's people go to school every day that don't that can't graduate or whatever and behind. This guy was working on the fields as a sharecropper with the family, and he graduated on time. So there's some things that I take from him. A lot of things I take from him, and I kind of coined like the 4 P's: protection, provision, presence, and praise. So one thing I wanted to share about protection. Now, growing up, I grew up in Hillside, New Jersey, which is right around the corner from us. And we know some of the same people in Jersey. His cousin, Orlando's cousin, is from Hillside as well. Okay. We got a little connection in the Hillside New Jersey connection, which is actually a suburb of Newark. Like I live like 2 blocks from Newark, New Jersey. So there were some guys on my block. Give you a quick example. There were some guys on my block that were bigger than me, older, and they kind of took my football, and I was trying to get my football back. Right, talking about presence and protection, both of these words summed up into one experience I had with my father. Okay, this one experience. So my father came down on the porch and was like, "Kevin, everything all right?" So I looked at the dude that had my football. I was like, "Yeah, I think everything's all right, Dad. I think everything's all right." And the dude handed off my ball, protection. It was protection, his presence. And I do the same thing with my daughter. When my daughter's out riding a bike or whatever, I just come out on the driveway. Let everybody see my presence. So, she's protected. That's why when we talk about these facts just now, adolescents in a single mother and single father families are at higher risk of risky behaviors, victimization, and mental distress. So our kids won't have that issue because we're in their lives and they under our roof, right? They're in our roof, under our protection, under our provision, under our presence and praise. When we praise them.
I love this conversation because there's a theme that's running under this conversation. Today, people want, how do I do it? How can I be the best? How can I make it perfect? Well, we just explained, just by the 3 of us, it wasn't our parents' station in life, and it wasn't our circumstances. But all of our circumstances were different. All of the stations were different. I knew my grandfather. He was a sharecropper. My father was a sharecropper with my grandfather. So is the boundaries, those principles stayed the same, although the circumstances and the station in life changed. So we can keep those 4 walls, and we can keep those pillars in place. Those pillars in place are important. It's not about perfection. It's about making sure that you are. My dad, 3rd grade education, walked with purpose. I mean, if I always say all the time, if you want your child to live with purpose, then you walk with purpose yourself.
You
Right?
got to model it.
Right.
You got to model it.
And just like Orlando's dad was an artist.
Right.
My son is getting into helping people. And he said, Dad, I never thought I was going to be in the people helping people business. And
That's what you do.
it's just, it's what he's learned and what's handed to him without having to say anything.
Yes.
It was the environment he was in. And actually the fact that, I do understand that God is my strength.
Yes.
He doesn't use those words, but he believes.
Yes.
Right. So those pillars are there, and those pillars are principles that can be consistent no matter your station or your condition. And I think that's very important for us as we go forward when we start talking about, how do we help other fathers navigate this change?
Yeah. I like the pillars. I like the pillars piece there, Orlando. The pillars, what he was talking about. Now, my father, going back to my father, he was a sharecropper. He graduated on time. He actually relocated himself to New Jersey, moved to New Jersey, hung out, hooked up with his uncles, which is pretty much around the same era, time, age around them. Was able to stay there until he got him a job and everything. Then he owns his own business. He owned his own business before he retired, owned his own trucking business, and how he bettered himself, so he could measure up with everybody else, so that he could measure up. He took a lot of, they called it back then, correspondence courses. So he took correspondence courses, and he listened to a lot of talk radio. He listened to a lot of talk radio so that he could understand the language of being an entrepreneur and just kind of, being up north and being a mover and shaker. So I learned along with him. I'm gonna share a quick story too, and then I'm gonna come to you, Orlando. So you get ready, Orlando. Get ready. So what happened? Something happened at school. I'm gonna keep it like that. Keep it general. Something happened at school in the hills. Something happened, right? Something happened. I was there. So because I was there, my name got circumvented, circled around in town that I was there, and the cops came knocking on the door the next morning. They knocked on my door, and when I went downstairs, I'm thinking it's all over, right? That was, say it was on a Tuesday. So now Wednesday morning, I get a knock on the door. I go downstairs. My father's at the top of the stairs say, "Who's at the door?" I said, "It's the cops. The cops are here." And he was like, What's the cops doing? Who they want? I said, "They want you." But I know in my mind, they wanted me, but they wanted Kevin's father, right? And so my father went downstairs and talked to them. I was upstairs, I'm sweating, my stomach hurt. Now, when you get in trouble, my stomach hurt. I gotta go to the bath, I gotta poop, all kinds of stuff going on, right? So and then so he came back upstairs and he asked me, "Well, did you do such and such? Did you do such and such?" I said, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't." He's okay. We'll talk about it when you come back home from school. So I went to school, did the whole school, came back home. Then he asked me again, "What happened?" I said, "This is what happened, but it wasn't me. It wasn't me." He's okay. The next morning, I'm getting ready for school. Jump in the shower, get my clothes ready. My mother was in the hallway, and my sisters had upstairs. So we lived in a two-family house. My grandmother and grandfather, my mother's parents lived downstairs. We lived upstairs. My sisters had the attic. My father hooked up the attic, so like a little parlor for my sisters. So they stayed upstairs. So when everybody was getting ready to go to school, I'm getting dressed. I'm ready. All right, going downstairs. My father was like, "Oh no, buddy, not you. Everybody going to school but you." And I'm like, "What's going on?" He said, "We got a situation to deal with right now." He was like, "You're not going to school, and I don't know when you're going back. I'm scared." He said, "So put on your work clothes. You're going to work with me. And so when I'm thinking, like, why is this guy? What's going on? What just happened? So he told me to change my school clothes and put on my work clothes, work with him, because he owns his own trucking business. So I work with him on a truck. So the whole time I'm working on a truck with him, he's, fathering me, nurturing me, beat me up mentally, like, "I'm your father. He telling me all these stories about himself working on the farm. I wanted to go to school, but I took you out of school. You didn't get suspended. I suspended you. I suspended you from school, and I don't know when you're going back to school. I want you. I never even stole a biscuit from the kitchen table, and this, that, and the other. And you out there doing all this crazy stuff, and I was like, I didn't do it. So he took me out of school for about 3 or 4 days. Ooh, 3 or 4 days. And then I think that Monday morning, he was like, "You go back to school. You learn your lesson." I was like, "Yeah." And it's funny. So I consider that part of this theme is discovering the lost art of fathering. So my father the school didn't suspend me, my father did. And then I got back to school, got back online, got my head straight. And could you imagine if I was out there wilding, or if my father didn't step in, or if I didn't have a father? I'd have just been wilding like crazy. Anybody, any kid, it's like the statistic I was talking about, it'd have been any kid out there wilding out in North New Jersey, without a father, and just a statistic. Yeah. But because he cared, he loved me so much that he loved me so much that he suspended me from school for those days, and I had to make up the work too. And he made me make up the work and everything, and it was just like it never happened. Right. And one thing about my father is, what I learned from him is that he addressed whatever he needed to address, but he never brought it back up again. He never threw it back up in my face. Never. All the things that I did, and things that he bailed me out of, and all that kind of stuff like that, he never said, "See this, that, and the other." No, he dealt with it. He addressed it then, and then never brought it back up again. And I look at that as like Father God. Father God, like when you do something and you ask God to forgive you, he doesn't come back and throw it back in your face. It's either under the blood or it ain't. Yeah. Type of thing. You kind of deal with it, and then you just move on. That's it. That happened. We dealt with it. You learned your lesson. Let's turn the page. It's a new chapter in your book, and that's what he did for me. So I want to go to Mr. Hillman and talk about the legacy of your father and you. Like what were those things that you got from your father? Besides art, like what were some of the core values that you got from Pittsburgh and that whole area, Steelerland,
Oh man, it was a development, I tell you that. I mean, I had a particular situation as with my father. I come from a family where family took care of family, basically. So I actually lived with my grandparents for the first, I would say 10 years of my life. 3 different families in I would say a 3-bedroom apartment house, but it was my grandfather's house. He was a retired steel mill worker. My grandmother, I never seen her work a day in her life. I always seen my granddad going to church. He was a Mason, always around the Masons and things of that nature. So I looked at him as far as like the stability part of fatherhood. Stability. He was a quiet man too, but he was real educated. But that was as far as this figure. I've seen him, how he took care of those 3 different families in that apartment. I seen how he took care of them. He took care of my grandmother. He didn't fuss about it. He took care of his family, proudly. I had beautiful Christmases that I can remember growing up, until the point where, there was another separate situation in my life. But at that point, I can remember it was a good point in my life. It was about family and wholesome, even though I was sleeping in the bedroom with 2 other brothers, and my sisters was in another bedroom with my 2 other cousins. But my grandfather took care of us all like that. Wow. As I mentioned, my dad was an artist. He went to the military, and I believe he did 4 years, and he got out of the military, and he pursued his livelihood of art, which we all know in some circumstances, when you live in the art life, it's not a rich life. You think of an artist,
you're struggling or you're a millionaire.
Struggling artist, that's the term. That was my dad.
Juggler artist. Okay. Wow.
So,
So how do you
my granddad, he took, how they cared about family back then. He took my dad's family, which I had two other sisters, and I had two other brothers. I'm one of five. So we were all in that household with my grandfather, and my dad was married to my mom. She was there also. And then he had a sister, which had two daughters that lived there.
Close family.
Yeah. But like I said, it was a foundation of God there. It was my granddad, he was an active member. And my grandmother, she was the wife, so she attended every function with him as well. Mm-hmm. But that figure of God we knew that was number one. Mm-hmm. And that's where I basically got my religious standpoint in life, my grandfather and my grandmother.
So I got this question for you. What is your current perspective of fatherhood? We know we've all gotten our core values from our fathers, right? Our fathers and our uncles, and also a lot of their generation. So how do you see fatherhood? And
my thing is what I'm coming to find out, because fatherhood is a developing stage, and you put a good term on it, the art of fathering, always changing into some type of picture. Because we as fathers fall short. We learn in fathering through like experience. I mean, your sons go through, your daughters, they go through different experiences in life. Hopefully you might have experienced that they might have been going through, where you can educate them on something with your knowledge from that experience in a relating way. But a lot of times it's not, because times change. It's different now from when I grew up and what I experienced as a teenager than what my son has experienced as a teenager now. So I have to develop and find a way of, okay, how I'm going to deal with him in the way that the times allow, because the time doesn't stay the same.
So how are you?
So fatherhood doesn't stay the same. I'm sorry?
So how are you developing into fathering them, boys, especially?
Oh, I'm gripping it. Know what I'm coming to find out? The main thing that I'm coming to find out is being intimate and open with your son in a relationship.
That's the thing.
You have to be honest and intimate to the point where, hey, you might not like what I have to say. You know what I mean? But don't let that hold you back from, okay, get upset with me, deal with it, come back to me where we grow and we can move on in our relationship and grow. And we both understand each other.
Yes.
You're not going to always stay mad at me. So me sharing something with you that might hurt you because it doesn't sound good or feel good.
Right. Yeah.
But it's going to help you grow in life. It's going to that's going to be a struggle with you and your child or who you're raising when you're deciding to do this. A struggle for him and a struggle for you. See, I'm learning this intimacy thing because my dad, the fathers back then, they really didn't show that intimate side of a man. So
rough, they're rigid.
Yeah. So this is something I'm developing late in life because I never witnessed it through my father. What I'm witnessing through is a lot of experiences that's been rough that I'm dealing with. But that faith in who I am and wanting to grow from those rough parts that I might be falling short on. Mm-hmm. I'm just growing as a father. I know I am because I have a different type of relationship with my son now. Mm-hmm. But it was a point where, I was falling short in some areas. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't because I didn't care or love my son. It's just through certain experiences that I didn't learn from my dad that I should have. But that block of them not being intimate with me, I struggled as a father expressing that in my relationships.
And you're
You
still
know, so
you're still discovering.
right.
And
So
you're
that's
still
what I'm
discovering
saying.
that.
But you have
Yeah.
to be willing.
Right.
You know, a lot of us now, like I said, with the times, how things are changing, they're throwing in the towel. They're not being fathers or being rough on their kids when there's a crucial part of their life that's going to dictate whether they go this way or whether they go that way. Like you said with your dad, he pulled you out of school.
Yeah.
And you was like, yo, I didn't, but that was a pivotal moment in your life. That was a pivotal moment.
Pivotal.
Yeah, I like that.
You
The
know,
thing is, we talked about the past, right? So there's like three-prong theme that we have tonight, right? So we're talking about the past, the current, and then the future. So I want you to talk about, the current. It will just, piggybacking off of Mr. Orlando.
Well, to get to the current, I have to say a little bit about the past. I'm reminded of Abraham when the voice of the Lord told him to move out of the country. And before he had kids. And then he had kids in the elderly age. I lived in Canada and moved from Canada to Delaware. And I didn't have my first child until I was 45 years old. So my thing is, though, sometimes we say, my father didn't give me this and I didn't. Events in life causes a man to reevaluate himself. When I was single, it was all about me. When I got married, I had to reevaluate. I had to recalculate and say, I got to consider my wife. And then when I had children, I had to recalculate again, reevaluate these events. In social work, we call having a child an intrusion, because a child messes up the rhythm of the marriage, messes up your consideration for all of the other things that the child brings into the family, and it's not the child's fault because the child's an infant. So, I love that it's an intrusion, because this fatherhood thing is really not about the children. It's about how men reevaluate themselves when events happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And having a child is another event, and then having another child is an event, and then changing jobs, or loss of a loved ones. All these events happen.
Yes.
And so with me, you asked me about the present.
Yes.
Now my children are out of the house. They'll be 24 next month, and one was over last night. And I listened, and I'm saying, okay, well, then your fathering has to change again. Because my wife was saying, we're getting ready to take a trip and we need to ask him this. I was like, I'm not sure I want to ask him that, because he's a grown man. I will respect him. Right.
Wow.
So I'm not going to ask him that. I'm not going to ask him that way, but I don't think I'm going to ask him that. I might ask him something else. If he want to offer that information, that'll be great. If he doesn't, I'm going to respect him for not offering.
That's
because
awesome.
I'm going to leave him in his space. Right.
So you have the parent adult. You have the parent adult.
Right
children.
now, I'm a parent adult children. So it's a continual evaluation. You got to be honest with yourself. First, you got to realize that there doesn't need to be a change. My father was the same way. He was mason tender. He was a pastor of a church, and when he went, we all went, and it was all about he was living with purpose. So I can only take that. I can only take that and say, whoa. It would really have been great if I had whatever. But I'm saying it to myself now. I need to sit down and have a conversation with my 3-year-old. We're not catching the balloon right now. We're just hitting it up so everybody can have fun. He catches the balloon. I said, no, we're not catching. What we're doing now, we're hitting it and keeping it up in the air. Okay. If he we stop. So he's tired of me stopping the game. So now he wants to listen to me because he wants the game to keep going. So what I've done, I've been patient, and I've given him grace for catching it.
Yeah,
because he wanted to catch it and run away. So right. So I'm not going to come down on him because it's natural to be selfish.
Yeah,
it really. And so I've gone through these transitions from little guys when they played football. And when they were teenagers, when they learned how to drive, now they're out the house.
Yeah.
Now my parenting is trying to negotiate almost with my wife, with her and I in the house, on how we're going to approach them.
Right.
And they volunteer a lot of information, and I say, that's all we need. So I think that's where I am, because it never stops giving the male an opportunity to reevaluate yourself. Because if I don't reevaluate myself, how I treat my wife, it's going to affect how the children see their environment and how they treat their wives. And I know that's going to happen. So I think that's going to happen even though they're out of the house. Because I said something last night. Phil's like, "Wow, you kind of got excited, Dad." And and he spoke to it, right? And I said, and I validated his statement, and then I recalibrated my statement, and so this is all, he feels free enough to make a statement to me that I got excited, and from his concern, I didn't need to get excited. Now, my father would say, "Boy, you wait till you get grown. You wait till you have some kids." Okay, all right. See, I didn't go there. I don't need to go there because he didn't get his turn, right?
I want to insert something real quick.
Yes, sir.
As you was talking, you just hit something in my stomach.
That was good.
Males are born, men are made. Males are born, men are made. Now, men can be made good or bad.
Yeah.
But males are born. So what you're doing is you're making a man that's sensitive, that's creative, that's a critical thinker, because you're doing the same thing, because you have Orlando, you have your boys in college, right? Your boy
one in college, one in high school, and one in junior high.
So now he got different dimensions,
and so you have to people sometimes, the woman does all this. No, the male has to, the father,
the protection
has to learn how he approaches those 3 levels.
Yeah.
My sons called me
differently.
Yeah, my sons called me last week and said, Dad, I got a question. I said, "What's up, man?" He said, "We have a lady here that's in a van, and the van said put 520 oil in the car, but we got some 530, and they say no, you got to get 520. Would 530 hurt it?" I said, and see, first of all, they got the freedom to call me.
Yeah,
trust my judgment.
Right.
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that they called me, and asked Dad, would 530 weight would be more harmful than 520.
Yeah.
And I said, if that's all you have right now, you can put 530 in there. It wouldn't hurt the car. And thank you, Dad. Really, really appreciate you. I don't have anything else to say to you. I don't need to say, I don't even say I love you, whatever. I'm just sitting up here in sunshine that he's calling me, telling me, asking me a question that he didn't ask those kind of questions when he was at home.
Wow.
But he had the freedom to ask as an adult.
That's awesome. I asked my father, I had this Trailblazer one time, and I had a couple of issues with it. I fixed it out of my pocket. The next time I had a transmission line that was messed up. So my father said, after I told him about it, and I said, "I need to borrow some money from you." And him and my mother both, they had me on speakerphone. I said, "I need to borrow like $1,200. I said, I'll give it back to you." My mother said, "You know what? We'll be glad to give it to you, Kevin, because you never asked us for money. You never asked us for money." So they put it in my account. You know how parents is. You give them your bank account money, they just put it right in there. And I got the car fixed, right? So during that time, my father said, "You know what? I'm not in your pockets, but I'll tell you what. If I was you," his approach, because he's my father of an adult man who I got a life too, right? So what he tells me, if I was you, I would get rid of that car while I can, while it's still running.
Yep.
Get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
I got rid of it. About maybe a month later, I took it to a dealership and traded it in, and I got a Traverse. And 2 weeks later, the dealer called me back and said, "Man, you sold me a lemon." And he was laughing. He said, "You sold me a lemon." He said, I said, "Why? What happened?" He said, "About a week after you sold me that car, I sold it and the transmission went. I got the transmission line fixed, but not the transmission, but it was running. It was good. Right. But I just listened to my father's instructions, I could have said, I'm grown. No, I said, you know what? The car's paid off. I don't want to get another note. But he said, if I was you, I'm not in your pockets. So when he said that, in the tone, the way he said it, I received it. I was like, he wasn't yelling at me. He wasn't trying to be daddy kind of stuff. Right. He was like, listen, if I was you, I would get rid of that car while it's still running. Yeah. While it's still running, because you've already put money in it. And then you borrowed money from me, kind of thing. So that means I took $500 of my money and got the truck fixed. And then I borrowed $1,200 from him. So that's $1,700 I got in that car in like 2 months. He was like, listen. He was like, he already knew. He was like, listen, Kev, if I was you, and just to your point, so even though my father's still parenting, and I'm in my mid-50s, so my father's parenting me now, I still get wisdom from him now.
Well, we talk about trust, but trust is a two-way street.
Yeah.
And we have to always remember that. Trust, the young child has to trust you, and you got to trust the young child too. The young child, like you said, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
But in the olden days, the police officer basically told your father what the deal was. You can say what you want to say. My dad's gonna listen to a police officer. I got parents right now I deal with. First of all, they standing at the door cursing the police officer out because I'm accusing my son of something. Wait a minute. Here, you said you didn't do anything. He took you out of school. Yeah. That means that everything was in order, stayed in order. Okay. Police officer stayed in order. I'm still your father, right? But I didn't slam you so bad that so I'm trusting you to make mistakes. And you trusted me to take care of it. When you got older, transmission issue came up, trust me both ways. Kept it that way.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He established that trust where you trusted him enough just to hear that word and how he said it. That you knew.
The tone.
That you knew. And it wasn't even a command, but he established it to the point where you trusted that sound, where you knew you had to do something. You know what I mean?
See, a lot of times men don't say that. A lot of times men don't say I love you, but that's what he was saying. I love you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Men don't say I love, but he was saying I love, and I got your best interest at heart. Yeah. And that's why he gave you that advice.
Yeah. If I was you, because you going down this path right here, right? You going this path right here, you might as well pay a car payment.
Right.
You doing this
you're gonna get back into a car payment, trying to fix that transmission.
Yeah. Oh yeah, easy. So how I see the future is, even with my daughter, I have a 10-year-old daughter. Well, she's about to turn 11. And that's a long story how the age, like she's my granddaughter, right? But she's my daughter. And she's a daughter, and she's a girl, and I know she's emotional, and we know that men are emotional too. So I have to cater to her personality type. So the thing is, a lot of times, the previous generations, and also our generations now, they don't understand the different personality types, or even just the demographic. That's just the family demographics, right? So, but I understand her. I know that she's very tenderhearted, and I know that she's kind of soft, and she's, and she's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Tenderhearted, soft. I can't think of that word. She's sensitive. So she's very sensitive. So I know how to chastise her, and I know not just raise my voice. There's been times that I had to discipline her, right? And just by the way I raised my voice at her, I know I was breaking her spirit. So I had to turn back around and apologize. I turned around and apologized. I was like, not for what I said, but for how I said it, in the tone, so that she understand, this, daddy's this. No, I was right. I was right when I said this, right? But how I said that, because I understood her sensitivity, So I think we as fathers now, that we're understanding, like the different personalities. Like you have to worry about the 3 different age ranges of your boys. You have to deal with them differently. So I know how to deal with her. I'm like, okay, I have to study her at this age, like I had to study her at a previous age. And now she's getting into the teenage years, the teen years, what they call them, tweens, whatever, so I have to deal with her differently. I have to back off a little bit. And that goes to, that was something, what did you call it? When you're dealing with, you either doing the training, you're either training or you're teaching them, right? So you're either training your daughters or your sons, or you're teaching them. You have to train them or teach them. But that's at some point you have to back up. That's what it is. It's called CTTM. CTTM. You either coach, train, teach, or mentor. So different times I have to train her. You have potty train, right? So you have to train, you have to teach them, you have to teach them a certain level, right? Then you have to teach, train, coach them, and mentor them. So you're coaching them and then you're mentoring them. That means you're modeling them. You're modeling something in front of them. You're modeling how I talk to her mother, how I talk to my wife in front of her. So I'm training her, and then when she's doing something, like she's very creative, like you, Orlando. She draws a lot and she sings, plays piano and stuff like that. So that she's that type. So I have to learn how to do that. When I teach her to do something, now I back off and let her do it, even if she makes a mistake. So that's a different dynamic than what was taught to us, right? But I'm not faulting them. I'm not faulting them because they did the best and they did great. Look at us. Look how we're here. We're doing great. We're right here on a podcast.
Exactly.
They produced us. They interceded and prayed for us to get here, to make it, and to be able to be on a podcast and talk about fathering in the future, in the perspective. So I see a legacy.
Can I stick my neck out?
Go ahead, stick your neck out.
I got stuck my neck out before and I got in trouble. I think I'm gonna stick my neck out one more time. I'm probably gonna get in trouble because I know somebody's gonna see this.
Yeah.
The statement that girls are emotional. And I stuck my neck out and say, time out. Here's the deal. Girls respond as if like I'm hurt, right? Boys respond, I'm mad, right? Both emotions. So I'm over at my nephew's, he got 22-year-olds. This past weekend, they're building these things with magnets. And the issue is, one of them always hit the construction and destroys it. So they made a game. I said, after we build it, what do? They destroy it, right? So they started building one and it wasn't finished. All of us was having a good time. And one went around the table and started destroying it already, right? And we was like, no, we're not in the destroying phase right now. We don't want you to destroy it, right? And you want to cry, you want to get all emotional. So he got mad, and we said, wait. Let's finish. Help me finish. Help Uncle Weldon finish this. Help your dad finish. Help your mom finish. Now what do? And then everybody smashed them, and they went all over the place, and we destroyed them. But we don't want to put that label on girls that they're emotional because we have emotions that are exhibited a different way.
Exactly. I go with that.
Right. And then boys smash. And girls say I'm hurt, right? I'm running into girls at school now, they smash. Okay. The girls are ready to break something, right?
That's a whole other story.
That's okay. But I stick my neck out about this.
That's good. I'm with you. You just stick your neck out. That was good. Right. That was good. Speaking of emotion, we talk about the girls. Even there's a school that I go into. I'm not gonna give the location. I'm not gonna give the name, but I know there was a lady, young lady, squaring off with the boys.
Oh, no doubt.
Squaring off in the school.
No doubt. No.
And I'm like, wow.
Oh yeah,
But that wasn't none of my mentees. It wasn't part of my leadership program or anything like that. But I was just like, so with the emotional, it goes both ways. But also, like, to the point is that we understand and we're learning. Like, instead of just, it's my way, shut up, go to your room, whatever type of thing. Now, wait a minute, why you feel this way?
Right.
Because maybe I can help you, maybe I can teach you. And if I don't know, maybe we can get a book and learn together. My best friend lives down in Charlotte. Charlotte Al is my best friend. And he's been married 42 years. About married 42 years, and he has adult children, of course, But he also tells me that he had to learn how to parent his son that's just turned 40. Now, that's my best friend. He's a little older, right? I like older guys. So, they give me wisdom, right? So he's telling me he had to learn how to parent his older son who's married and his daughter that's married. So because he didn't have that, he didn't learn that from his father at all. He wasn't raised with his father. He knew his father, but he wasn't raised by his father. So he grabbed a book. And him and his wife both read the book. So he reads books now, even to enhance their marriage. So these parents, this is the parents that we are now. We're learning, we're growing, we're learning that, you know, we can't just be throwing them across the room and you do what I tell you to do and you're gonna behave type of thing. No, we're gonna learn how to reach you. We're gonna learn how to love you. We're gonna learn, you know, even some just how do you the love language.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know, so go ahead. The 5 love languages. Not just for our spouses, not just for our, you know, our partners, the people that we share pillows with, but for our children. You know, and also with the same principles that we have learned and seen demonstrated from the baby boomers and our fathers, you know.
Yeah, and that's where you got to really, but you really do have to be vulnerable and know who you are as a man, you know, to continue to develop as a father, you know, because it's not always, it is challenging at times, you know, where times you have to reach deep, you know, to still direct them in the area of growth, but you growing too, reaching that aspect of what you never even dealt with before, you know, like you said, with being open and intimate with your child. I don't even think my dad ever heard those type of words, you know. But he showed it in different manners, you know what I mean? I was able to watch him draw murals, you know. He would take me along with them, you know, different homes he would do murals in, you know. So and that was our love connection, that gift of art, you know. And that's where we had a connection. And I mean, but the developing part was the intimacy that came to a later time, you know, where I learned how to forgive and see my father for who he is at the moment and grow from that point on in his life, where I can learn from him. Where I'm like stagnant, seeing the development of me as a father, because I don't want to have a relationship with my father because of something he might have did, and you're stuck on that part of it. Where no, if he's willing to grow and be open about where he's at, now he still has something good to offer you.
How about your personal economy? Your personal economy right now, Orlando. You're working on a project right now, right downtown on a mural.
Yeah, exactly.
He just said he learned from his father.
Yeah.
He was with him. And look what he's doing today. I don't know how many years later, let's say, 40 years maybe?
Yeah, 40 years later.
So 40 years ago, you was with your father painting murals. And today,
you're doing it.
Today, he's working on a mural right now in the city, downtown.
But we have to be careful, because I can tell you that my sons are going to say things, my dad never did this. About our father. One of the things I will admit right now that I don't do is be current on all the social media activity and be able to talk to them about the crazy stuff that they come to me and say things, and they'll say it so convincing and believing. And sometimes I don't say it out loud, but I say it to myself, where are you getting this from? So we have a lot of influence from the outside that we don't sit down with our children and articulate some sense of reason with it, because we don't know about it. Matter of fact, sometimes the first time we hear about it, they bring it to us.
Yes.
We don't even know it was on the internet. So I love when I hear my father then sit down and talk to me and say, my kids are going to say the same thing about me. Dad didn't know anything about this. You know? And I'm going to say, yes, you are right, because a lot of that stuff they brought to me, and I'm like, I can't believe Dad didn't know that kind of stuff. But that and they're gonna not do something that their children are gonna say. Exactly. And I wish my dad was more clued in on this. But we started with those 4 pillars. And if you keep those 4 pillars never change. Your life circumstances and events in your life and your station in life can still revolve around those 4 pillars. and you can be a successful parent and have
Yeah.
empower a child to be a productive citizen.
Yeah.
And you can still do that wherever they are and be proud of what, and I just, I don't want to use the word legacy, but we have to start thinking about what are we leaving.
I think we use legacy because I have that word right here.
Okay.
I think legacy is a good word.
Because we are leaving, whether we do something intentionally or not, we're leaving something behind that's either productive or non-productive in our kids.
Yeah.
It was funny. I don't know. Did I just tell you about that story about when I took my kids to the Hall of Fame?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Now I'm from Western Pennsylvania, big football town. You know what I mean? And like, we know a lot of players that went pro and things of that nature from where we grew up from.
Right.
So football is big to me, and I always wanted it and thought it would be big to my sons. So I did some artwork and stuff like that for a guy I know that went to the Hall of Fame. And he invited me and my kids to go to his induction, so they were able to experience they got pictures with Hall of Famers and all this. They were at the party with them hand in hand right by. They took pictures with the bus, with the bus that he was presented at the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So I'm excited about this because of how I grew up, how Western Pennsylvania, this thing, and how big football was. I'm looking at it like, man, my son's gonna just be able to tell their kids that they experienced this, you know what I mean? So I'm so excited. I even it was funny. We were on the bus going back to one of the events, and we were the first ones on the bus because it was a party and a celebration type thing going on. So I didn't want my kids to be all involved in a lot of that stuff. So I would bring them. I brought them to the bus where we were supposed to go back to the hotel. And one of the Hall of Famers got on the bus when we were sitting on there. And he sat down for a half an hour and had an intimate conversation with all three of my boys. Hall of Fame. Wow. And I'm sitting there like, wow. I'm like, yo, they're going to be able to tell their grandkids this. So I'm looking at it to be a memory that they'll never forget because of how I thought it would be for me as a child growing up. Man, my kids could care less about that at this point. Hell, one of them barely even watch football, and the other's so into school and girls or whatever that they don't even mention it to their friends. And I'm like, man, but that's something I would have wanted as a son. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Vice versa, but you look at it and you think your kids would want the same things, but they don't because time changes.
Yeah.
And you can't be mad at them because they don't appreciate it how you would have appreciated it.
That's right.
Or even that's your experience, not theirs.
That's right.
But don't be disappointed as a father when those things happen.
Right.
Because that's just a little story on my part. It happens in different stories. With us as fathers, sometimes we get an attitude or we might really take it out on our son or daughter because they didn't appreciate it the way we might have wanted them to.
That's right.
Because something that we wanted.
You wanted something. Now, we're going to wind it down a little bit, but I definitely want to share this. So whenever I was out of school, whenever we had Martin Luther King Day, whatever holiday was in school, even during the summer, I worked with my father on his truck, right? So there was sometimes I just wanted to chill. I just want to chill, stay home. My mother, my sisters, whatever. I had 3 younger sisters. Just stay home. Just didn't want to be on a truck with him riding around Long Island, Brooklyn, whatever, making deliveries. But then as I got older, I started to realize, wait a minute, this black man had his own business and he had his own clients. So he was making money. And what he was instilling in me just by default, me watching was him making his own way.
Right.
He making his own way as an entrepreneur, and a businessman. So this was one lesson that I learned just by default. And I just thought about it the other day. I don't know how many, it had to be over 40 years ago that I seen this happen. Like maybe 42 years ago. So we went to one of his stops. He got out the truck, and the guy had words with him. So my father gave it back to him, right? So they both had, he didn't like something my father did or said or whatever, pulled into one of the warehouses or whatever. Mm-hmm. And my father gave it back to him. And my father's name was James, right? James Kelly, right? So he had Jim Kelly on his shirt. So he was on uniform. So he had his own business. He had his own trucks with the S, right? And he had a couple of employees from time, depending on the waves of the business, right? But he had his own uniforms too. So they said, well, I want to talk to your manager. I want to talk to Sue. I want to talk to the owner. So my father gave them the telephone number to the business. So they left a message at the business. And so the guy was like, yeah, I called the owner, I told him about you, and they continued on, got the freight and then made the delivery. But he didn't know that he was talking to the owner. He was talking to the owner. But I watched a man take care of his personal economy, take care of his business, humbled himself enough, didn't flip out or whatever, gave him the number. He gave him the number to the company, and then was able to still handle his business, take care of the transaction, and go home. But my father was the winner. He was the winner. He was the winner. He was like, okay, well, next time I go there, whatever kind of thing. Change it up. So the guy didn't know that James Kelly was the guy with deliveries. But I really didn't appreciate that until I got older. I didn't fully appreciate the whole thing, the times when he was instilling in me. Just those little lessons like that. Even the lessons like I was sharing with you guys, how he made himself measure up, even speaking the English language, by taking the correspondence courses and and the talk shows. Just how you know how to use the words.
Your father was smart, because it's different than the kids today, because they say, I have the right to say this, or I have the right to be there. Nobody should be bothering me. Your father had the right to say, go ahead and call the owner. You're talking to the owner, right? But just because you have the right to be somewhere or to say something, you don't have to exercise. I tell people all the time, you have the right to be quiet. Exercise it, because you're making way too much noise right now. And hey, Orlando, I'll give you a quick one. I ran into Ernie Houston, Ghostbusters, the brother that played Ghostbusters in St. Louis, right? And I said, Ernie, you can't walk through the airport like a regular guy, man. You act easy. I put a sweater on, man. I walk through the airport. Nobody noticed it. I said, I noticed you. I said, wait a minute, Ernie. I said, I got twin boys over there. I said, man, I want you to meet them. And he said, Philip, Ryan. They turned around. I said, Ernie Houston, man. They was like, all right, Dad. They never did come over. Ernie was like, yo, this is history. This is Ernie Houston, bro. And Ernie said, man, kids today, man, forget about it. He walked out and said, man, I'll catch you ladies. Okay, man, cool. Man, I'm telling you, man, we have to get where they are, right? We want them to appreciate our stuff, right?
That's something. That's
true. But this is so good about the fact that, and I saw this in my grandfather, I saw it in my father. They had the discipline not to put themselves in a bad situation because they claim they have the right to do something. A lot of kids say they have the right to do it, and they just forge ahead and end up in a worse place, right? They just didn't say anything because they know they had the leverage. They just didn't say. I don't have to say everything to win this situation. Go call the boss, man. It's okay. It's cool. We got to instill that in our kids, man. Because you forfeit your blessing, you forfeit that's lost.
Piece of your legacy, you forfeit some of your economy.
That's lost on the kids now. If they have a right to say, if a police officer stopped them and they feel like they're in their right, I'm just sitting in my car. First of all, why are you beginning your engagement with the police officer with the debate? Why are you stopping me? I didn't do anything. You ain't got no. I'm saying to myself, Now his dad would have done that.
Mm.
He would. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
He said, "Here's the number. Go ahead and call the office."
Yeah.
You know, and the kids today know that's lost.
So that tells me that
That's
even
right.
as a business owner, you know, get my paperwork and everything in order. Now, if he did that over 40-some years ago, how should I be acting in 2023?
Oh, you got to keep that.
Man,
I think you have though. I think you have. I think you're humble. You're transparent. You got the posture that says, "I'm okay, you're okay." So you don't really get into those situations because I can see how you carry yourself. But today, these kids, stuff is lost, man. And we have to somehow instill that in them.
Yeah.
That you don't always have to say or do something because you claim you have the right to do it.
Yes.
You know what? And I think that lesson right there, Orlando, I think that's powerful, and that's also challenging for these days. Here you got, you know, and I hate to say it, I don't want to put my neck out there so much on this podcast here, but there's a lot of movements that's going on in the last couple of years or so. And like you said, they have the right to do this, they have the right to protest for whatever. So, okay, that's good. But make sure that you don't forfeit your personal economy, your wife. I'm married, right? We all of us are married here, right? We're married. So because we're married and we have children, how about this? I was just told by a famous guy about a couple of months ago. He said, man, Kev, you're in the 1% like me. He said 1%. We're in the 1% club because we're married and got kids, and we still without wives. Is what he was saying. And he said 1%, and I was like, oh my God. So of course, I still got to go back and research that number. I want to know where he got those statistics from.
I hope it's at 1%.
I hope it's not one, but it's pretty low. But people don't stay. You know. I do don't mean I do. Yes don't mean yes. No don't mean no.
Right.
It means it for the time being.
So being in the 1% club, as he's saying, right? So I have responsibilities, and I got some things I need to have discipline, like you were saying.
Yeah.
You know, okay, is my decision to protest going to affect my economy? Is it going to affect my marriage? You know, my daughter, me providing, you know, funds, protection, house, you know, food, shelter. Is that gonna affect or hinder or forfeit, you know, my daughter? We don't want any casualties.
Well, what happens is from my perspective, I don't know if it's true or not, but if I don't have a vision, then I could do anything, and it would make chaos to my family. It was a provision. I have to go ahead and have a vision for my family. That vision determines that I have boundaries that keep that vision on track. Yeah. If I go berserk, right, I'm not going to go berserk.
And you're right. Even if I'm right, you feel that you're right.
Even if I'm right, I can't do certain things because I have a vision. I'm going somewhere. Because if I'm a father and I'm not going anywhere, I can't leave my family. I don't have no vision. So I'll do anything. I'll run out here and shoot and do whatever, and then let my kids don't have a father.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it starts. This issue is not kids. It's us.
Yeah.
We have to know who we're about, and we don't have to worry about how the world looks at us. What you're doing is just as good as anything that I've ever done in my life, as long as you being true to yourself. Know that you get your strength from God, and you're going somewhere with purpose. Okay, and you got to be honest with yourself, and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Opportunities are gonna come your way because people are gonna see that in you. Yeah. And so I just think that people tend to forfeit. Yeah. As you said, the economy of your family, because they don't know what they're doing is disrupting. They don't have a vision, but it's disrupting where their family is supposed to be going.
Exactly.
Well,
right?
So give me this, Corey. I know you got some juice. So I know you got some juice. So give me this, Orlando. Give me some parting words for our listening audience. Give us some juice, wisdom for the audience. That juice that you're gonna say right now, give it, because this is gonna be the last thing that we share with the audience. No, that's okay. You got one more to do.
No, I was just telling that I just had a conversation with my 16-year-old son. I'm talking to him as he's developing into a man now.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, we have man discussions now. Father to son. No, we have man discussions now. So it's just like, okay, now we're going to deal with this intimacy, and it's something I'm learning too. So, I told him, basically your behavior is disrupting the structure of this family and us and me moving this family forward.
Wow.
Because he has to take ownership too. If that's my child, and me being the leader of this home, and this is my son, my lineage, who I'm trying to develop something for this family that could be life-changing. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now I have one son that's acting a certain way that can be disturbing where I'm trying to take this family. What I believe the God gave me,
Right.
to take my family where I need to take it, to take ownership of that.
Right.
So I have to deal with that uncomfort with him and willing him to take ownership of his responsibility to this family. He is my lineage, right?
That's right. That's good.
He's the one that's supposed to carry on my family name.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
So why wouldn't I want to have this conversation with him if I truly believe that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's powerful.
Why would I want this moment to fall in a rabbit hole if I didn't believe that he's the heir to my family name?
And some people will say that you wouldn't be responsible if you
No,
did.
I am. And he's responsible also.
Right.
Exactly.
So I let him now know through conversations his responsibility. And a lot of times it's a growth period where we're both uncomfortable.
I like that.
Yes, gotta have difficult conversations.
But be necessary to see whether it's growing, and if it is, take the little growths, because it's something new, which is going to help in the long run, but you got to be willing to deal with that uncomfortable part of it,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what fathers today need to know, because it's a rough world out there. They're with them out there more than they're with us in here. So you parenting your child, you're only parenting him when he's in that household. When he's outside of that household, society is parenting him. You better hope that your values is enough where it could get him through whatever he's going through out there. But you better have that open line of communication where they're comfortable enough to come to you in these manners.
That's it.
And some of these manners might be rough, but that's your lineage, right? So you're going to deal with that roughness in order to protect it, where you see it grow past these obstacles that we have in life now. And they're all going to have the reality of those obstacles. It's just, how are you going to deal with it as a parent when you're facing it? You're going to say nay or yay.
So check this out. So in a nutshell, what we're going to tell the audience for Mr. Hillman is have those hard conversations, right? Doing the obstacles, being transparent, right? Being transparent and having those hard conversations with your sons, because they are your lineage.
Hard, honest conversations.
Honest conversations. Okay.
And you're both being honest with yourself, because we both know who we are as parents and as children.
Yeah.
Especially when they develop into this point of life, like teenager life. That's what I'm dealing with now, teenagers. So I'm talking about what I'm relating to at this experience in my life.
That's good.
As a father and him as a son. So he can understand where we're coming from. He knows whether he's being honest with himself or not. Just like I do.
Right. I think I've captured what you're telling the audience right now. Right. You're telling the audience, because you're dealing with teenage boys, is have the man-to-man conversations, be honest, open and honest, transparent, right? And even when you go through those hard situations and hard, let's say, intersections, but really be firm, They might be mad at you. They may not like it, but it's actually going to be good. Good for
You're establishing
not just their personal economy, but it's actually going to be good for your household where you're taking them.
Yes, yes. Because if it's truly you're leading them in that direction and you believe where you're leading them, they're going to see it develop into that, and that's going to develop the trust because they're going to know you lead them to a good place.
That's good.
They see you proving what you're speaking.
That's good.
And you just have to be honest with, do you believe where are you leading your family?
Yeah. And they're gonna see results, and they're gonna see the fruit. And they're really gonna trust you. They're like, oh, Daddy was right. We got fruit here. Thank you. That was good. That's good, Orlando. Now give me some parting words, some parting wisdom.
Sometimes the fruit is realized after.
Yeah, years later.
Yeah.
But I just one thing to add, maybe it's important. It's okay as a parent to set boundaries. And boundaries is not something that says, I hate you, I'm penalizing you. It's not, no, this is, I heard a guy said one time that he said, I'd rather have a person that work on his character rather than changing the behavior. You change the behavior, you can always revert back to it when things get tough.
Repeat that again.
I'd rather have somebody that I'm working with. That's
good.
that has a change of character rather than a change of behavior. Because behavior, you can just go back when things get rough, you can revert back to it. A change of character is something that becomes a part of you and is there when there's something tough or when it's easy. It's always with you when you're there. But the thing is, though, you have to instill that in your kids. You gotta let the kids know you do have boundaries, and it's okay. Dad has these boundaries. This is who I am. This is not about you. It's about you, but it's about me loving you. It's about me protecting you, me providing for you. These boundaries are not punitive. These boundaries of who I am. A child does not get the right to challenge who I am. I have boundaries. That's who I am. They can say why all day long. Okay. And my parents would say, because I told you so. We don't have to use that language,
right? But
we can also instill and say, this is. I used to say this to my boys, and I don't know if it was a good thing or not. And it was Spellman men don't do that.
That's good.
Spellman men don't do that. You take your hands off the girls. Spellman men don't do that. And I don't know if they got that message, or they did it okay. They didn't have any trouble, but. I just want to drop that boundary thing. I think sometimes parents are a little hesitant in saying, this is how far I'm going to let you go, and that's it. Okay. And it's for your own good.
That's good. That's some good wisdom there from Mr. Hillman and Mr. Spellman.
Man, it's all good.
And my last one I want to share is very simple. We heard this. Train up a child in the way it should go. When they get old, they will not depart.
Amen.
And that's the foundation. And there's so much juice that's been on this podcast tonight. There's been so much juice, so much wisdom, insight, experiences, the stories. Oh my God, we could do a part 2. We could do a part 2 with just us. I know we got some other guys lined up and everything, ready in the pipeline.
I appreciate that blessing.
Hey, thank you. This was a blessing.
Really
yeah, I learned a lot about you.
Yeah.
I learned more things about you. I learned more things about Orlando.
My man, Orlando.
My man, Mr. Weldon. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, man.
And this podcast actually is sponsored by Life by Design coaching firm. And this is episode 1, and we hope you all enjoy this session. Thank you. God bless.